My number 5 is technically not a March Madness one, but it's from 2020. And so there was no March Madness. So I think it's fair to do something from this was March 3rd, 2020, when Snacks, you remember Snacks?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Thomas Lee of Jackson State got into the game in the final minutes. They were playing Arkansas Pine Bluff, also a school I totally knew existed. And his team just kept feeding him the ball. He kept missing. And then finally he sank this unbelievable three that like a Steph Curry three.
Yeah.
And the team won, and everyone was just so thrilled for him. He's a bigger dude, and he started being called Snacks because he brought Skittles to the locker room when he was a freshman, starting as, the manager. And so everyone started calling him Snacks. But he said that it was for the big guys everywhere. And I just loved that
That's
so
what
much.
made it awesome, too, is like just the shot itself was like cool. But then you find out that Snacks is like actually awesome.
Oh, yeah, Snacks rules.
Snacks did not, this was not a milkshake duck situation, as they say on the internet, where you like find out more about him and you're like, oh, no. At least,
Snacks stayed good.
to my understanding, Snacks became like cooler as I got to know more about the guy. And that counts as March Madness. It happened in March. It's college basketball.
Great.
March Madness is the whole month.
It wasn't the tournament. It wasn't the tournament, so I didn't know. But that's my number 5.
My number 5 is the 2012 national title game, national anthem, sung by the Fray.
I forgot about this.
It was the most horrendous national anthem I've ever heard. It never gets mentioned as the worst national anthems of all time, and I have no idea why. The Fray come out, for those that don't remember, it's on YouTube. Go look it up. The Fray come out and they decide, like, you know what? We're not going to sing the national. We're going to play our own song, and then we're just going to sing the words of the national anthem over top. And the guy has like a tambourine and also a drum. He's like hitting the tambourine with the drum. Another guy's like playing like the banjo. And
also, no one liked the Fray even in 2012.
The chicks I went to high school with liked the Fray, so I know some of their songs, and I maybe threw them on a mixtape here or there once, but I wasn't afraid. Like I'm familiar with the Grey's Anatomy theme song.
I read the Wikipedia.
I read the Wikipedia. Yeah. They're capable musicians, though. You know what I mean? Like whether you're into their music or not,
play music. Like they know how to play a guitar.
And they come out, Charlotte, and they're like, we're just not even going to come close to playing notes that you're familiar with the national anthem or the melody of that you know and love. We're going to play our own thing. And then the lead singer, to his credit, sang the words of the national anthem. That'd be funny if he comes out, he's like, and now the national anthem. He's like, how to save a life. You're like, what are we doing, Fray? But then the other thing that took it next level was that even in spite of playing the song, they're already butchering it by not playing the right song. Right. I know nothing about music. I have what's the tone deaf? I guess I don't understand music at all. I don't understand musical theory.
Don't sell yourself short, Judge. You know a lot about 90s country.
Well, I know, but I don't know the art of music. I don't know
no.
I couldn't be an American Idol judge because I'd be like, I don't know, sounded pretty good to me. I'd say that to everybody. And the reason I say that is because even I, a guy who can't understand anything, could tell that they were off key. Could tell that they were playing it bad. That like something was very, very wrong. So anyway, it was hilarious. It was an absolute train wreck.
We should tweet out the video of that because I think the people need to remember. I do remember that. I remember just being like horrified, but also loving it.
Happening right now. And the other thing that made it funny is it was Kansas, Kentucky, so you have two of the most storied programs in all of college basketball. Bill Self, John Calipari, Anthony Davis is playing in this game, and like so, the stage was not that that matters as much, but it's just like funny looking back. Like Anthony Davis's big moment right before it was how to save a life. So anyway, that's my number 5.
It's so good. My number 4 is the John Wall dance from 2012. And I was not aware of this during the regular season because I wasn't super, or was it 2012? 2010. It was 2010. Yeah. I was not super aware of this, but then I remember it came to March Madness and I had to fill up my bracket and I was sort of asking people and they're like, well, John Wall's pretty cool. And I was like, I don't know why. And they were like, because he does this dance. And then they started doing the dance that he did where he moves his fists in and out. And I was like, oh, that's what people have been doing at parties all year long. This, like, it finally made sense to me. And that was such a moment of clarity. And before I started, working in sports, a moment of like, oh, there is a language here that I don't know that I would know. I would get a lot more references if I paid more attention.
Yeah.
And then I started paying attention.
I remember that. That was my senior year in college. John Wall. That was John Calipari's first year at Kentucky. So that added to it. It was like John Calipari goes to Kentucky and he gets this insane recruiting class. Which as more time has passed, he's gotten I think some better recruiting classes than that. But like it was groundbreaking at the time to just like have a guy who can sign the top 2 or 3 guys, and you're like, what the hell just happened?
Right.
So there was a ton of buzz around Kentucky. Obviously, that team was so good. And yeah, I think he came out for their Big Blue Madness, like at the start of the year, that big event that they do, and that Drake shows up to every so often.
There's a YouTube where he's like walking
and
out.
That's what it started. And then like all year, like that was the thing, was John Wall. Like, does he still do that? I don't think he does.
I would think that he maybe shed that somewhere along the way, but I would love him to bring it back.
I love like 64-year-old John Wall at his Hall of Fame. He's
he
like, what's up,
That's
everybody?
when he needs to do it.
Yeah.
If there were a time to bring it back, it would be that.
Yeah. My number 4 on my list is when Jim Nance gave his tie to Ryan Arcidiacono in 2016, and it like exploded the internet, and everyone's like, wait, is this something that Jim Nance does? And it became a huge story that no one will ever forget. And I can't watch Jim Nance go college basketball and not think about it. And then come to find out, he had been doing it for like 10 years.
He'd been doing it for years. And everyone was like, oh, the amateurism. Here's a kid.
Yeah.
And Jim Nance thinks that giving him his tie is like going to save the world. It's like, no, he probably doesn't think that.
If you don't know the story, Jim Nance, who I assume most people know, calls every national championship game. At the end of every game, he says that he finds a senior, he gives him his tie, and he did this in 2016 on the winning team. It's like his MVP trophy. He's like, I'm going to take my tie off and hand it to you. And everyone heard this, and they were like, what? Why does this kid want your tie? What are you doing, Jim?
I definitely roasted it because I didn't know that he did that until then.
Here's his quote. It's a personal Final Four tradition. The tie symbolizes a lot to me. My father who taught me how to tie a tie. I just felt years ago that I wanted to do something to honor a senior on the team that wins a title, to give them something to take home. I bring a new tie every year to the game. So he buys a new tie, wears it just for that game, and I find a player who I'm inspired by everything about them, what they do on the floor and what they've done in the classroom. And they said that was an easy one tonight because he was someone asked him, they saw him hand it to Arcidiacono, and they're like, what the hell was that? And then he said, like, that's something. Yeah. And then he didn't do it in 2017. I don't know if he still does it because I think like the internet went crazy, and then he was like, all right, well, I guess I'll retire that, which kind of sucks too because like it is well intentioned and it's sweet and it's a nice gesture.
Yeah,
it's just very
it's
bizarre.
A little weird, but like it's not. I don't think it's as condescending as maybe some people thought it was. I was like, what a weird, cool kind of thing to hang in your basement when you're 30. It's so absurd to have Jim Nance's tie in your house.
Yeah.
That it's funny, that it's worth how egocentric it is to do it in the first place for him.
For what it's worth, all the guys that have gotten the ties have said they like Arcidiacono. My understanding is like he displays it in his like Final Four, like whatever his trophy case at his house.
Oh yeah.
He like has it. And he's like, yeah, it's cool. I got Jim Nance's tie.
You get that framed. I would frame that.
But
I have a Jim Nance quarter zip from the Vineyard Vines collection. I framed that, and Jim Nance didn't even give that to me. It's hanging in my apartment.
I bought that for $241.
It was a gift, Todd. I'm taking it with me. Okay, my number 3 is when, this is also 2016, I think, I'm pretty sure, when Sean Miller sweat through his shirt, the Arizona coach.
Yep.
And I like this because I'm not trying to make fun of the guy. Like, I'm not trying to be mean. I don't think that this is like I'm not roasting him. I just think it's an absolutely amazing human feat that this man, 11 minutes in, was able to sweat through his entire shirt. And he gave a great explanation. He said, he also said, it seemed like something that happened to me, like I was sick, or I was a raving lunatic on the sideline, that I sweated at a level that's never been seen before, Miller said.
Yeah.
But truth be told, I tried a new shirt that was positioned to me as being more breathable, and they were right, which means less material. And then he didn't wear an undershirt under it. And he just like he looks like he's in a wet t-shirt contest.
Yeah.
It is one of the most incredible human feats, like physically, that I've ever seen.
If he cannonballed into a pool and then walked out, he would have less moisture in his shirt than what he had.
Yes.
It was unbelievable. It's something that it's a gift that keeps on giving. It is a meme that will be used from now until the end of time, and it especially became funny as Sean Miller has got caught. His program has been involved with like the FBI situation, we'll say, and there's a note.
We'll just leave it right there.
We'll just leave it like that, and so it's a great picture to just sit like we've turned it into
like the feds are coming, and then you switch to a picture of him.
So many people use the joke like live look at Sean Miller about like anything bad that's happened to Arizona that like Tate and I have taken it and we've beaten it into the ground to where it's like so unfunny that it's kind of funny again. That we'll just like.
Well, I'm glad I chose this one.
We're intimately
forgot
familiar
that you
with
guys
it.
did that.
Yeah, live look.
Whatever.
No. I don't mean that's not. It plays. No.
It plays? Okay.
Yeah, if it was corny, I'd tell you
good.
it was corny. No, it's a good pick. It's a good pick. Because it is. It's like, it's timeless. Like in 30 years, you could show that picture and people would be like, yeah, that's
People
hilarious.
still be like, yeah, that's insane.
That's so funny. Yeah. That'll go. If there was if I could start my own college basketball Hall of Fame, I would put that picture in it. I'll put it that way. So that's a good pick.
Great. Okay, good.
My number 3, you're going to love this. This is, we're starting to get into the territory of like, you have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. And it's story time with Mark.
I'm psyched.
So Billy Packer, do you know who that is?
Yes.
Okay. So
No.
we're off to a great start. Billy Packer he was the color commentator for Jim Nance is the head guy, as we know. Billy Packer from 1974 to 2008 was the lead analyst for CBS or for the Final Four. I think he was NBC originally, and then anyway, he was the guy. If you're watching the Final Four, Billy Packer was calling the game up until 2008. 2008 was his last one. He did it for 34 straight years. He was an oddball. He was a guy that just his name and an older generation, like my dad's, like I grew up with Billy Packer, but by 2008 he was out. But my dad, like that era from 74 to, like, so he's got a lot of thought, like that kind of generation. They're like, yeah, Billy Packer, how much time do you have? But, totally. Here's the moment that I want to highlight is that Billy Packer going into his Final Four in San Antonio, 2008. Coincidentally, the only Final Four that ever had 4 number 1 seeds. That was the Mario Chalmers hits the shot to beat Memphis. That was or to send it to overtime against Memphis. Anyway, USA Today writes an article about Billy Packer. This might be his last Final Four. I don't think they know it is yet, but they're seeing the writing on the wall, and they profile Billy Packer. And I will never forget this profile as long as I live, because there were these nuggets within this profile, Charlotte. I'm going to read, this is word for word. He'll tell you that Hillary Clinton's support among women is overrated. This is in the article. There's like, these are things about, he'll tell you that Hillary Clinton's support among women is overrated. He randomly, and remember, this is 2008. He randomly approached 123 women recently without introducing himself to ask if they'd ever vote for her. None of them knew who I was or cared, Packer says. He was surprised only 3 women blew him off. You'd think they'd say it was none of my business, he says. FYI, only 6 say they vote for Clinton. So basically, the point of this story is that Billy Packer was walking up to women on the street and saying, would you vote for Hillary Clinton? In 2008. He polled 123 women for no reason whatsoever. A college basketball commentator.
That's just like... That's the definition of stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. Yeah,
like
it gets
he
worse.
Swerved, so he merged. He took an exit off a highway that wasn't even there.
This is like his big going away pro. This is like a big like Billy Packer's an icon. Say goodbye to Billy. They're writing this in the article. They continue in the next paragraph. His survey wasn't out of character. They're saying this is not out of character, and here's why. After the 1996 Atlanta Olympic bombing, he created the Richard Jewell Defense Foundation since he was sure that the police were focusing on the wrong suspect.
What the hell? How was this guy allowed to be on TV?
It gets worse, Charlotte. Are you ready for this next sentence?
Yes.
He hired a psychic to find the murder weapon in the O.J. Simpson case. This is the man who was the voice of college basketball for 34 years. And they didn't tell us this until it was his last Final Four.
Are you kidding me?
And then it continues.
Psychic?
A psychic. He was like,
The
He's like,
murder weapon.
we're gonna find them. We're gonna solve this case. I Billy Packer am going to hire a psychic to find the knife that killed Nicole Brown Simpson.
Does
Ron
anyone know
Goldman.
what happened to this? What this guy's up to since?
That's the story you should write. You should find out what Billy Packer's up to.
I'm gonna track down Billy Packer because that is an insane. I did not know any of this.
There's also a nugget that when he lived on a golf course, he played holes backwards. He would tee off at the green and hit it towards the tee. I swear to God, this was all in the same article. So that's number 3 on my list.
I thought I was the only one who did that.
That USA Today article, 2008, when Billy Packer was about to call his last Final Four, and I'm reading that like, what?
Bad insane thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. That feels really important.
Yeah.
Okay, my number 2. Sorry. Like, I'm gonna be thinking about that one. It's gonna take me a while to process that.
Yeah.
Okay, my number 2 one is when the UNC Band wore shirts that said "The ceiling is the roof."
Oh.
I was at that ACC tournament, and the band sort of files in and starts playing, and I looked at their shirts, and I was like, oh my God, because Michael Jordan had said about UNC's football team, that, when it comes to this team, the ceiling is the roof. And everyone was like, what?
Like, that makes no sense.
That's not even close. It's not even like you got the saying wrong. Like, that's just straight up not a saying. And then the band showed up wearing t-shirts, and I just thought it was the greatest thing I'd ever seen. It's very simple. It's very simple.
No, that's good. That again, an iconic moment that I think people will be saying the ceiling is the roof for a long time. And I know that because it's been a few years and it still hits, because like most things on the internet die out in like 2 weeks.
Like people don't say it all the time, so it hasn't like oversaturated, but it's still like a wink.
I like it.
If you know, you know.
All right, this is number 2 on my list. Is another story. I'll try to make as quick as possible. We simply do not have the time to. Charlotte has to get out of here. In 2014, Mitch McGary was a guy. He was a sophomore on Michigan. He was on the 2013 team that went to the national championship and lost. He comes back. He's supposed to be one of their better players. I think some people thought he's a preseason All-American, whatever. Eight or so games into this.
You're talking so fast.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Keep going.
8 or so games into the season, McGary hurts his back, and he's supposed to be out for the year. Now, Michigan ends up having a great team even without him. They go on a decent NCAA tournament run to the Elite Eight. And in the Sweet 16, Mitch McGary, who's been out for the entire year, everyone thinks he's going to be out for the whole year. He's just rehabbing to come back for the next year. To galvanize the troops, Mitch McGary decides, I'm going to dress for this game, for this Sweet 16 game. He's not going to play. He's been doing rehab enough that he can like just warm up, and he wants to sit on the bench in his uniform and cheer on the guys instead of street clothes and sit at the end, right? So it's a good gesture. Let's let Mitch McGary dress. By dressing, Charlotte, he has to be added to the active roster.
Okay.
By being added to the active roster, you are now eligible for a random drug test after the NCAA tournament game.
Oh my God.
Simply by putting a uniform on with no intention of playing, he gets drug tested by the NCAA after the game, pisses in the cup, tests positive for weed.
Oh, no.
Because it gets worse. This is why the story is like insane. Because this happened, like if you test positive for weed in like a normal regular season game, like the governing body is like the University of Michigan or the Big Ten or whatever. Right. Their penalty is like you miss a game or two, maybe.
Right.
Maybe so if it's in house, they'll like just make you do sprints or something,
Right.
Because it's the NCAA. The NCAA's rule at the time was you are suspended for a full calendar year. So he comes back. He doesn't even play. Had no intention of playing. Wasn't even healthy. Even if everyone fouled out and they looked at Mitch McGary and they're like, "You get it." He's like, I can't play." They still tested him. He gets suspended for a year. So he was going to come back to Michigan, but he was like, "Well, if I'm going to be suspended, screw it." Goes to the NBA, and then that following year in 2015, Michigan is not very good. And part of the reason they were not very good is they had no big man, and they needed Mitch McGary badly. It's one of the most bizarre stories.
That's awful. That's one of those things where it's like the rules do not fit.
Yeah.
Like following rules is such a sure, it's by the book and it's what you're supposed to do, but every bone in your body, you want to just like scream at someone because you're like, this makes such little sense.
His career ended. I don't mean for this to be this isn't my favorite. I know Michigan fans are going to think I love it because it's like Michigan, suck at Michigan. It's not my favorite because I don't want to see bad things happen to people. It's my favorite just that how just like, are you like, it's just mind blowing.
It's more
how
roasting the NCAA.
Yeah,
than,
it's like
right.
the circumstances that led to this point are so insane. And for what it's worth, Mitch McGarry swore that this was the first time he ever smoked weed. So if you want to believe him, like I do remember that. I was like,
I didn't inhale.
He's like, I went to one party and I smoked. Someone handed me something. I smoked it, and I don't
Good
think
for
that was
Mitch.
necessarily true. But I love.
Yeah, well, you know.
It adds to the story. If that's
It
true,
does.
that makes it even more insane.
If
So,
it's true, it's
anyway,
incredible. If it's
That's-
not, it's a great lie.
that's my number 2 is Mitch McGarry getting boned by the system.
Oh my
In
God.
2014.
That's amazing.
All right, you're number 1.
Mitch McGarry. All right, my number 1 is it's personal to me, and it was when I walked the Butler Bulldog, Butler Blue the Third. His name is Trip, through Madison Square Park 3 years ago before the Big East tournament. And it was hands down, no joke, Mark. Like, I was rereading this last night and I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever written. Like,
What?
nothing I've written even comes close to being this good. Like, this is art. Like, this is the closest to art that I've ever gotten.
What'd you
Can I
do?
just-
You walked the dog?
Yeah, so somehow
Why?
I managed to walk the dog through. Like, they were doing. I can't even remember how it happened, but I met this dog on the corner of, like, on some street corner with his managers and his handlers, and I took him for a walk. As a thing that I did for my job. And then after the fact, we followed each other on social media. Butler Blue will DM me sometimes. Their Trip has since retired. There's now a 4th. Butler Blue the 4th is the current mascot. And I just want to read you one thing that I wrote, because this is the greatest paragraph I've ever written. And I'm sorry to gas myself up like this, but it's about a dog. So the Commodores wrote Brick House about this dog. This dog's bones are made of steel. This dog could bench 350 pounds with only his back right leg while smoking a cigarette. This dog invented CrossFit and then quit because it wasn't hard enough. This dog is what happens to normal dogs when they keep their New Year's resolutions. This dog is elite. This dog
Oh my
also has to
God.
poop. Like, it
That's
does.
good.
It won't ever
That's
get
good.
better than that.
You're great. What a great mouthpiece you are for Butler Blue. I mean, my God, you meet the dog, you take him on one walk, and suddenly you're ready to you're like, I've seen enough.
You should have met this dog. Like, you would get it if you'd met this. I tried to convey the feeling of, like, the majesty of this dog. I'll tweet the article out again because it's I'm going to the Big East. I'll tweet it out when I say that I'm going, because it's hands down just my finest work. So
That's so good, and it's a relationship that will continue. That you
Yes.
have Butler Blue sliding
we
into your
spoke
DMs.
yesterday. I
and
asked him if he was
we're
going to be there. He's not. They're not allowing
Mm.
dogs this time. Got to protect him. Can't have
Damn.
dogs getting COVID.
Damn.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thanks.
Number 1 for me is my number 1 on my list. It had to be this. It's just one of the more absurd things that's ever happened in March Madness history. In 1981, the morning of the national title game, John Hinckley Jr. shoots the President of the United States, Ronald Reagan, in an attempt to impress Jodie Foster.
This being your number one. on a
Again,
list.
it's not my favorite that it happened. It's my
No, it's
favorite that
wildest.
it's absurd. It's just absolutely
Yeah.
absurd.
Yeah.
The president is shot, and they don't know we don't know his condition per se. And there is a national championship game to be played in Philadelphia, and there's a meeting in a broom closet where Dean Smith and Bob Knight, it was Indiana versus North Carolina, are meeting to discuss what do we do about this. And the story goes that Dean Smith said, like, I don't think we should play. And Bob Knight was like, to hell with that, we're playing. Which I think is kind of, I don't know if that's actually what happened, but it's just convenient because Dean Smith is like the nicest guy in the world and Bob Knight's an asshole. So I think people just kind of assume that's what happened.
Even if it's not true, like, it's a great narrative.
They end up playing the game. The game started 20 minutes before Ronald Reagan came out of surgery. So,
Oh my God.
like, as the game's going on, they're still not entirely sure if the president's going to make
my
it through.
God.
And I just want to, the reason this is number 1, and especially it works well in these times we live in right now, is because there's this understanding that, like, what has happened to America? Where have we arrived where, like, sports are more important than the pandemic, where the Capitol is stormed and yet people just continue, like, life, they just go on, like, and I just wanted to point out, this is not a new thing. In 1981, the president was shot. And they were like, yeah, we have fans in the stands. We should
Gotta
probably
wrap it
play
up.
the
Gotta
game.
wrap up
like,
the tournament.
we got contract. Like, what would we be able to make money from our TV ads if we don't play? Like, we should play the game, right? Like, and they still played. So I just wanted to point that out to America that even 40 years ago, they were still like, the game must continue.
Country's always been broken, folks.
Hey pals, thanks for watching the People's Sports Podcast YouTube channel. For more of mine and Mark's very weird rabbit holes, stick around, watch more. You can subscribe, smash that subscribe button. You know you want to. We're going to give you all the weird stuff we possibly can. Hey pals, thanks for watching the People's Sports Podcast YouTube channel. For more of mine and Mark's very weird rabbit holes, stick around, watch more. You can subscribe, smash that subscribe button. You know you want to. We're going to give you all the weird stuff we possibly can.